there are a number of programs that have made significant noise today. You talk about Oregon, you talk about maybe a USC, but which sleeper class do you really like among the Pac-12 schools?
I mean, is it a sleeper class if it's a potential top 25? How about Utah, right? And again, I've long been, I think we all have long been a fan of Coach Whittingham and how they develop. But, they bring in these top 30 to 40 classes, never the top 15 to 20. And I think they're probably the school that makes us look the worst, right? They take our little 3-star and they get them drafted, and then we look stupid. And I think they develop players better than anybody, and I think people won't talk enough about that when it comes to recruiting. It's not just about getting these top kids, right? This isn't basketball where you can just have a guy go straight to the league from high school. You got to coach and develop them. Those two things Utah does better than anybody. So right now it's looking like a potential top 20 to 25 class. I love the offensive lineman. I love the skill, the wide receiver class, Mikey Matthews, Spencer Fano, Caleb Lomo, and they got some difference makers. So you combine these high-level kids with the way they can develop and strength train and the whole deal. I mean, I'm excited for Utah and where they're going to be in 2 or 3 years from now.
Yeah, it's a new age, I think, right now in modern day recruiting. Utah, Pac-12 champions back-to-back years, and obviously doing it with their own identity and doing it their own way. They're just reached their second consecutive Rose Bowl, so they are certainly capitalizing on their on-field success and carrying that over into recruiting. I want to talk about Cal for a little bit. This is a program who is at the bottom of the Pac-12 rankings in recruiting and didn't have the best season. They took a bit of a PR hit as well with UCLA leaving the conference and it appearing like Cal, was, I guess, salty, you could call it. When you look at their commit list, when you think about the guys that are headed up to Berkeley, what do you see?
Yeah, no, I mean, two guys jump out for me. One of them just came down the pike today. Byron Cardwell was a running back who, UCLA was all over. And, talk about momentum and how you build it. And, with UCLA getting Dante Moore, the feeling was they might just kind of start to get on a little bit of a run. But, Cal kind of said not so fast. I think Byron Caldwell is an immediate impact guy. Combine him with Jay Nott, who had a really good freshman season last year. And I like Nazia Hunter as well. I'm not sure if we have him in that 4-star range just yet. We might have. Brain fog is kicking in for me. But, they have some guys that I think are pretty good. They're always about trying to build up those offensive, defensive lines. But, I think the skill guys that they're bringing in are pretty good. And, I think credit to that staff. They work hard. It's not a level playing field. They're not going to give out these giant NIL offers that a lot of other schools are. So for them, it's kind of going the Utah model of just trying to be really good in every other area, coach these guys up, develop them. They have a good staff, especially in that secondary. I like their DB coaches quite a bit. And, I also am, a big fan of Aristotle Thompson, the running back coach. And I think it paid off today getting Byron Caldwell.
Yeah, I think when you think about Justin Wilcox, you know that he's an evaluator, right, of talent, a player, a former player who understands certain positions, and you have to, I think, and you have to be confident that he's going to bring in the players that fit his defense. Let's stay in the Bay Area, Greg, and talk about Stanford. What do the Cardinal look like without David Shaw?
Honestly, it's a little bit weird, right? It's going to take some time for me to look and see a new coach, Troy Taylor, who, known forever back when he was coaching at Folsom High School. And if you know anything about Troy Taylor, it's going to be a fun offense to watch for sure. They got their quarterback, ironically. Miles Jackson was a 24 commit who recently reclassified into the 23 class. I talked, earlier today, Cam Brandt, Sierra Kenyon. He's still committed to Stanford. Just a quick update, but he will not sign today. He said he wants to still take a trip to Michigan in January. So he's one of their headliners on the D-line. Really like Cam a lot, but he's going to wait till February. But Luke Baklenko, for me, maybe the number 1, number 2, number 3 offensive lineman in California. He had offers from just about everybody. Stanford, it will always be, for me, really easy to recruit because automatically your mom and dad's favorite school, right? Every parent wants their kid to go to Stanford. So, I don't think it's a tough rebuild. I really don't. They have to kind of get back to their identity, which during that, end of the Jim Harbaugh, early David Shaw, it was just being tough and physical up front. It was, intellectual brutality. It was just being more, just being more physical up front, being dominant in the trenches. That great strength program. I think to get back to that, mixed in with Troy Taylor, who I think, again, offense is going to be fine. Defensively, David Bailey's going to stick around. And I think he's going to be an NFL guy in a couple of years. And, on the back end, kind of clean that up a little bit. But, Stanford, haven't won a lot of games in the Pac-12 the last couple of years, but I don't think it's going to be a super long rebuild just because, again, Stanford's going to automatically jump into almost everybody's top 5 if you have the grades to get in there. You can visit Stanford, man. It's a tough place to turn down.
There are some hurdles, obviously, with Stanford, right, with the academic requirements and having to go through admissions, and I think it limits the type of recruit that they can go after. Washington State is another program in the Pac-12 North that has to deal with some of those restrictions, but for them, it's about accessibility. I don't think recruits are able to get up to Pullman as much, but they do recruit to an identity. They recruit to their style. What do you like about the Cougars class?
Yeah, I mean, just earlier today, Jackson Potter, quarterback from out here in Southern California. I know he's a guy that we've talked about before with Ivans, who likes him a lot, and so do I. He's a 3-year starter and arguably the toughest league in the country, the Trinity League, and he put up numbers. Washington State. Again, I think if you're a quarterback, they've always been able to throw the ball down the field. Wide receivers are always available. I think they like that system a lot. Coach Dicker did a great job. They still got to kind of bring in a couple staff members. I don't think they've hired an OC quarterback coach yet, but defensively, they always play tough. They always play, again, I call it that edge, right? They kind of play angry, which I love. But no, Potter's a guy who, for whatever reason, I thought this was a Power 5 guy all the way. Wazoo offered him last week. He never visited, never been on campus. He kind of committed sight unseen because he kind of saw himself as a Power 5 guy. So I think he's a nice building block for at Washington State for sure. I think he's a talented football player.
Yeah, Washington State, number 10 in the Pac-12 rankings, 21 3-star commitments. Right above them is Colorado. They obviously have a lot of noise, a lot of buzz right now with Deion Sanders. They just picked up a commitment from Shedeur Sanders. He's a transfer, a 4-star quarterback.
Shocker.
Yeah, a shocker, right? And the thing about Colorado, too, is I think we're entering the experiment phase. We're trying to figure out what this is going to look like. So break out your crystal ball, Greg Biggins. What will the Buffaloes look like in recruiting under Deion Sanders?
Yeah, I mean, they're going to go national, right? And growing up, for me, I don't mind saying this. I mean, I was a Buff fan. I love the helmets. I love the Buffalo. I love, Deering Hagen, Eric Bieniemy, and Kanavis McGee. They had dudes back in the day, right? 80s. I'm kind of aging myself a little bit, but I see Deion going national. I mean, he is a national brand. I think he's going to be able to go into the homes in Florida, California, Texas, Billings, Montana, where I'm from. I think it's going to be fun watching Colorado. I think that staff, it's not just Deion, man. He's got a staff that I think is kind of high energy. And if you've ever been to Boulder, man, it's probably one of my top 3 or 4 most beautiful campuses. It's unbelievable there in Boulder. Cool college town. So, I mean, lots to sell. Do I think they're going to come out and win a lot of games this upcoming season? Probably not. I don't see an 8-4 season coming on, but I think it's going to be a process. And I think baby steps, Shedeur Sanders. You mentioned it, God, why didn't we crystal ball him? You probably did, Blair, just didn't tell me about it. But I think he's their quarterback. There's going to be talent. Travis Hunter, is he coming? One of the most skilled guys I've ever seen. They're going to get dudes, man. That portal is going to be really good for them. And so the roster right now is going to be radically different than it will be in about 4 or 5 months. So I'm here for it.
And GB, I'm setting a reminder. Next time I put in a crystal ball, I need to alert you first before I do it.
You usually do. I thought you and Hupp had a thing, a system, but apparently not.
Yeah, well, it's a process, just like it is at Colorado. There are, in the beginning, in the early stages of their process, a school that's already kind of in the later stages of their process is Oregon State. And we saw what Jonathan Smith was able to do on the field. They took a huge leap forward. It appeared like maybe they were just a really good quarterback away from being in that mix for a Rose Bowl. What do you like about the Beavers?
Yeah, no, nice little segue, right? Quarterback. How about a guy named Aiden Childs who we recently invited to the All-American Bowl. Man, I like his game a lot. He was 16 most of the year. If you know anything about Southern California quarterbacks, a lot of these guys were 16 when they were in 3rd grade. So Childs, man, he's young, but he's talented. He's got length, he's got arm, he's got ability from an athletic standpoint. High end when it comes to your touchdown interception ratio, high end completion percentage. Kelsey Howard could have went almost anywhere. Dorian Thomas was a really nice flip right there. Leonard Ayu. I love that you have the list up there for me, Blair. That's kind of helpful. But no, I'm a huge Jonathan Smith fan. I think he's probably one of the top 2 or 3 coaches in the Pac-12. Those guys play hard for him. I think he's very exotic with the offensive game. Defensively, their secondary was really good last year. If you watch the USC Oregon State game, man, those second defensive back for Oregon State, they were locking those guys up, all game long. That was probably the best defensive performance against USC and against Caleb Williams all season long. So love Jonathan, like where their game's trending, and he believes that they can win there. And you know what? They have been winning. So we'll see if they can take another step and shoot, man, maybe play in a Rose Bowl. That'd be kind of fun to see.
Fun fact, Aiden Childs, bilingual, Greg. He speaks a little bit of Spanish. He's almost as multifaceted as you, my friend. Thank you so much for joining us.